the cloud. Okay. Excuse me. You guys are really unlucky today. Joe and Dennis, neither one could make it, so I'm leading this motley crew with an even more motley leader. So what I want to do is review some of the recent trips. Mike, could you talk about the trip to Adams Ricci, however you pronounce it?
Yeah, Adams Ricci Park. There was probably, I think, seven or eight people that showed up. The big attraction was the Butterfly Garden, which is an outdoor garden, but still had plenty of blooms. Nobody ventured down the nature path because it's a hazardous trek down to the creek, so that'll have to be for another day. There was a caboose. I don't know if anybody photographed that, but some people did photograph. There's a model of a nail factory that used to be in West Fairview, and one of the old nail pulling machines. So some people photographed that. So I would say that the people that were there did enjoy it. The Butterfly Garden was the big hit for sure.
Oh, good, good. And what about the Lebanon Valley College trip? Seeing as you were one of the leaders there.
Oh yeah, that was really good. There was it was all paintings, but I think there was one or two photographs, maybe three, and the idea was to look at the paintings and relate their composition, their color use, and so on to our photography. It was all the Hudson River Valley School, which is mostly landscapes. So that was helpful for people that wanted to do landscapes. So it was nice to relate a different medium to our medium.
Yeah, and I was there too, and I thought you and Joe did an excellent job with that.
Oh, thanks. And by the way, there's something coming up there in February. My all-time favorite photographer is Louis Hine, and they're going to have a show of his work. He did tremendous things for the children of this country, and nobody knows about him. He snuck into factories and coal mines and photographed children at work. Then those photographs were hugely instrumental in child labor laws in this country. So there's going to be a show of his work in the spring.
Okay, great, great. Okay, and on the 11th, there was the night photography walk last Monday. I didn't make it, but who did? Mary, did you make that?
No, I didn't make that trip.
Didn't.
I missed it,
No.
right?
All right. Well,
I was there for just a little bit. I didn't stay the entire time, but I enjoyed. It was mainly Second Street that I got. Okay. Some of the buildings and the lights and the things. I thought it was very interesting.
okay, great. Next is the upcoming trips, which is Saturday, the 23rd. Norbert and Mary Fox, the Fort Hunter scavenger hunt. Mary, do you want to talk about that, or you want to let Norbert do it?
I can do it. Norbert can chime in if you'd like. And we do this about once a year, and it's really nice. It's really scenic, especially with the fall, autumn, the autumn leaves and everything. And then the river's there, and Fort Hunter's on both sides of Front Street, so you can go on either side. There's barn, there's a covered bridge. There's the mansion, there's a Hecton church, it's a little bit down from the mansion. There's a lot, even if it's just foliage or like leading lines, the river, you'll see a lot of things there. I think people will enjoy it.
Yes, Mary, I want to add something to that. Maybe folks should come a little bit early, because usually in early morning, like out in the fall, there's a fog that hangs over the bridge, Rockville Bridge, and it might be very photogenic. It might be something to think about when you're coming up.
And there's trains too sometimes. There's trains in the bridge, right, Norbert?
All right, great. Our next meeting is next Monday, the 25th. It'll be an image review. by Chip Kane, and there's a theme to this one, which is street photography. Okay. The other thing I want to make everybody else aware of is that all these meetings that get recorded are being loaded to our YouTube account. So you can go see them anytime on YouTube. Okay. Excuse me. Does anybody else have anything else they want to bring up? Okay, let's get into the program. The program today is equipment maintenance. Is to talk about equipment maintenance, and this is to be an open discussion. I don't plan on muting anybody. I've got a few slides, but the slides are there strictly to get us started, and to give people ideas of things that we might miss in the process too. Okay, so let me share those. See if I share the screen. Share screen 2. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to start with general thoughts first, okay, and just to kind of get things going. The first thing when it comes to equipment maintenance, to me, is buying the appropriate equipment. An example of this would be if you're going to do a lot of landscape photography outdoors in inclement weather, buy a weather sealed lens or a cover for the camera so it doesn't get wet, because you don't want the electronics to get all screwed up. Keep it protected, which for me means keep it safely stored, and when you're using it, as you use the equipment, put it back in the camera bag and not just leave it around. Don't abuse it. I know some people that's hard to do, and for mine, they get pretty banged up. And the other one is keep it clean. Excuse me? Thought I heard somebody. Apparently not.
Well, I got one for you, Mark.
Sure.
In keeping your equipment dry, when we take our cameras out in the wintertime and then come back in the house, that's very rough on them.
Hold on a second. I'll keep that thought. We're going to get to that.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to get specifically to that one. I'm glad there's somebody else thinking that one.
As far as the keeping it dry, you can get really inexpensive clear plastic
Just think about it later.
covers for the camera and the lens. I think I bought mine from B&H. I think they were a couple dollars a piece.
Mhm.
They weren't very expensive. Came in handy this weekend.
Not bad. Not bad. So what are we talking about maintenance for maintaining? The camera and the tripods, lenses, and a group that I just call accessories. First thing is how do you guys maintain your cameras? Mary, what do you do? I'm gonna pick on you.
Well, I just make sure it has the lens cap on if I remember to put it on. And I you know what, I put it in my bag, but sometimes I have it sitting on my kitchen counter or whatever. I don't do anything to it. I mean, to tell you the truth, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. So these are general questions, and I want to talk about them. And if nobody volunteers questions, I will ask individuals, just like back when you were in school. Who's going to get contribution one way or the other? So the first question is, how often do you clean your camera, and how do you clean your camera? Anybody want to chime in?
I use a Q-tip.
Oh.
I use a Q-tip quite often to try and get the dust off and stuff in the corners
Okay.
and that sort of thing. So
Okay. Dave, what were you going to say something?
No,
Well, I was
that's-
gonna-
Hold on,
Go ahead.
Norbert.
Oh, yeah, okay.
no, go ahead, Bert.
Yeah, well, I don't do too much of cleaning actually either. I mean, I'm kind of like what Dave said. I kind of get the exterior clean and, and I check and see if there's any dust spots on the sensor, but outside of that, I don't do too much maintenance to the camera. Honestly, I don't.
Okay.
Maybe I should be doing more. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a sensor cleaning kit that if I notice something, I'll get it out and use it. It's got the swabs and the liquid and,
Okay. Well, let's jump to that. How do you guys clean and check for a dirty sensor?
I have Fujifilm stuff, and I have it set so that every time I turn off my camera,
Yep.
the sensor will vibrate and hopefully knock any dust off of there. Now it stays in the camera, but it shakes it off the sensor is the idea. So I have it
Okay.
set that every single time I turn it off, there's a vibration on the sensor, and then it should clean the dust off.
Okay. All right. Step back here just for a second. I just changed the picture. I use a paintbrush
Really?
on the exterior of my
Oh.
lenses, on the exterior of my lenses and my camera to knock the dust off and grit and that kind of stuff before I do anything else to it. I happen to like this particular one because it has almost no handle and I can put it right in my camera bag, so I have it with me at all the time. And this is particularly useful when you're in an area that's dusty or sandy, like the beach. So you can take it, you can just wipe everything down and put it into the camera bag.
You raise a good point about dust and such. It depends where you are, but if I'm in a sandy environment, wherever that is, I absolutely will not change my lens. No way. Because I don't want to risk getting any grit into the sensor. So I plan ahead what lens I'm going to need. And if I'm at the beach or wherever, I just will not change a lens. And the other thing I would just say, if it's raining or damp, I always keep a microfiber cloth in my bag. So I never really want to put that camera in wet. But other than that, I guess I just try to plan ahead and just keep the lens on the camera. I think you're really playing with fire with these expensive sensors to get sand and grit in there.
Okay. Anybody else?
I
Who
use,
changes lenses at the beach?
who goes to the beach?
I do.
You do, okay.
I do. You always, one thing, one of my first meetings was with Jennifer King. And she said how to change your lens. You always turn your camera upside down
Upside down, yep.
and drop your lens off.
Yep.
That it doesn't eliminate it 100%, but it's a pretty good odds you're not going to get any dust in the camera when it's upside down. And I've always taken that approach. And yeah, I carry 3 lenses onto the beach. Thank you.
I don't think I'd even do that upside down if there's swirling winds, though.
Well, no, that's something different. But as a general rule, whether it's the beach or anywhere, there's always pollen and stuff in the air. So
Yep, true.
That's I always turn the camera upside down and change the lens. You clean the lens pretty easy, but not the inside.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I shouldn't say always, I try to do every time I change a lens is I got a small, Mike, you can show the little blower.
Okay. You want the can or the actual blower?
The actual blower.
Well, it's here somewhere.
But I take one of those blowers like the Yoda's rocket, and I always blow out the sensor side and the lens where it connects. So I'm always trying to get the dust to move out of those.
Here we go.
Yeah, there you go, something like that.
We can't see that.
So I always have that.
All right, just a minute. Put me on, Mark. Can you put me on the screen?
I don't know how to do that.
All right, hold on.
Might have to-
Okay.
While we're waiting, B&H sells a rocket blower. It's sort of a brand name. It's pretty hefty. So, you know, it's not one of those really inexpensive ones that you get with a cleaner and wipes and, you know, whatever for $2. The rocket blower, sort of a really pretty hefty one.
And Tom,
Okay.
Tom started showing one there too.
Well, I'm gonna put this one away then,
Oh,
now that
yeah,
he
Tom.
talked about the cheapy ones.
Yeah, this came from B&H, I think. I've had it for years. Between this and the makeup brush that I stole from my wife, that's what I use on the that's what I use on the outside of my lens. But I will occasionally open up my my cam, take the lens off inside, turn the camera upside down, lift the mirror, and actually blow this up into the sensor. I don't know if it helps or not, but I mean, I try what Mike does and let it try to vibrate dust off, but every once in a while I'll still get a spot on that sensor, and you end up having to take it in somewhere and have it cleaned, which gets expensive. So I'll try this first.
Well, the new Canon R5 and R6, they got smart, and there's no mirror, of course, to protect the sensor. When you go to take your lens off, when you shut it off, there's a curtain drops down over the sensor, and that doesn't come back up until you put the lens back on and turn it back on. So that protects the sensor pretty well.
Ah, okay.
Interesting.
You know, I
One
wonder,
other-
Mark, I wonder if there's a little bit of a lag in answering your question about how often you clean, is because, you know, for some of us, for me at least, what it is that the body camera is an intimidating machine. You know, I'm a little bit afraid of getting inside it or doing things. I'm wondering if in all practicality, I mean, because what we like to do is to shoot pictures, and sure, a dirty camera gets in the way. But I think we do, it's like how many, if you ask the question of how many people back up your computers, probably would be a lag in the answer there as well. I think it's a bit just, you never get around to it because we're so busy shooting, or we're too busy doing something. I'm wondering does anyone agree that it maybe, and I don't do it quite yet, is it better just once a year or twice a year to fork over the bucks because it's expensive equipment, and take it someplace that they will do the cleaning for you?
Well, let's break. Good comment, Richard. Let's break it up into two scenarios. One is do you do any routine cleaning of the exterior of the camera? And then what do you do as far as sensors?
Yeah, can I comment on the lens?
Lenses are next.
Oh, okay, then I'll come back later.
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Hold on to that, Chris. So does it, you know, like I said, I don't do it every time I use it, but I occasionally wipe it down with the brush. I'll use a damp cloth on it if I think it's gotten grimy, I guess is the word to say, or sticky on a hot, sweaty day. So those are the kind of things I would do with it.
Mark, one thing about the exterior that's a pain in the neck, and many people probably don't even use this anymore, is looking into the viewfinder.
Yep.
That gets
Yep.
super cruddy in there.
Yeah.
And a Q-tip, that's what made me think of it. A Q-tip works pretty well, but it's hard to get into those corners. So that's one thing that's a pain, is
Right.
looking through the viewfinder when it's, you know, it's like you're thinking, hey, wait, I don't have a vignette setting on here. But that's how it looks through the viewfinder. So that's something to keep in mind, is to clean that little viewfinder the best you can.
Well, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. The next picture I have some pictures of a lens pen, and this particular kit that I have. Okay, who did that?
It was Rich Scar. Apologies.
Trains coming
Okay.
in.
One of the things I did was they actually make a kit. Lens Pen actually makes a kit with 3 different sizes of lens pens. And the small one is specifically designed to clean the viewfinder.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So it's a little bit smaller. And I also I've got listed at the end of this slide some videos and references that you can go to that have instructions like how to clean viewfinders and things like that. But you're right, that is a pain, because cleaning viewfinders is never fun. Who sends their cameras to be tuned up every year, or 2 years, or 3 years,
Forever.
or ever?
Done that.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get to the last one, how often do you check firmware updates? Do you ever
Whenever
check?
when Norbert tells me there's been an update, then I check.
Me too.
That's right, there we go. Yeah, well, our system has a lot of updates, and they're pretty amazing how they keep the camera pretty current to newer cameras that are coming on the market. So I think Mike and I and a few other people are blessed with our systems that we're using. So anyway, I just had an update here just last week, and and they come through about every 3 or 4 months. They have something that seems like coming down the road with something. So, but I'm sure other camera systems do the same thing. So I'm just.
Yeah, the Nikon, I'm part of their mailing list. My equipment's registered with them.
Mhm.
And every time a firmware comes out, they send you an email, and it's been, I think, 2 this year so far. So with these mirrorless, there's a lot more updates than what it used to be.
Yeah,
Terry,
but-
how often does Canon do their updates?
Canon, I would say probably twice, 2 or 3 times a year, but I'm on the same thing as Myrl there. I'm registered. So whenever anything comes up, they send me an email, let me know right away.
Okay. And I shoot Sony, and I haven't seen one this year yet. So I'm expecting there's going to be one at the end of the year. They usually do about 1 a year. Don't you think that's right, Dave?
I haven't checked I haven't checked anything. I like the camera just the way it is. I know the other thing.
That's the other
Okay.
problem. When you do an update, then you have to learn how to use your camera all over again.
Yeah, because they've added 5 more pages in the setup menu.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
That is an issue.
we're gonna do 2 other things. The last question I have here is, how long do you expect your camera to last?
Forever.
Forever. Okay.
Right.
So
No,
know
it
it's-
really depends, I think. If you're looking at a tool, I'm gonna say, versus a jewel. I mean, if it's your baby and you want to hold on to it or this and that, you're probably not gonna do things that you would if it's a tool. I mean, if you're on a safari or whatever, you'll have a backup camera if the first one goes bad. But if it's your baby, I guess that's the category I'm in. I'm probably way over protective of it, but I leave well enough alone and just try to keep myself out of harm's way.
I have an
Oh.
answer for you.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how much gas you have in reference to gear acquisition syndrome.
Yep. Bruce, I agree with you on that one. I guess the comment I had, I was making some notes to myself when I was putting these together, and I said, how long do you, and my comment to myself was, until something I want even more comes out.
Yep.
yeah.
Hey, one other thing I'll chime in on,
Yeah.
On cleaning the camera.
Yeah.
With the exception of the last 2 years, the past 5 years, I take my camera and my lenses to the Photo Expo in New York, drop them off at Olympus and drop them off at Fuji. They clean them, inspect them, and if there's parts missing, lots of times they replace them for free.
Oh, cool. I
But
did that once a
obviously
couple
during-
years ago.
Yeah, obviously during the last 2 years, they haven't had Expo live
Right.
there.
I've done the same thing up at the New England conference, that great big,
Ooh.
where there's 1,000 nuts like us running around.
Yep.
They usually have somebody there that'll clean it up and, for you.
Yep.
So I have it done up there.
Cool. Sensor cleaning.
Actually,
No, go ahead.
I've learned to clean the sensor myself. I got a duck and a kit, I think it is. And it's got a light that shines in there and a magnifying glass so that you can, look in there and see if there's dust. But I use the sky to photograph and then blow it up real big. And if I see spots, then I know it's time to clean the sensor. And this Delkin kit, it's got the solution, it's got the swabs. You can get the swabs to fit either an APS-C or a full-size sensor. And, I've watched them do it up at New York where they clean it.
Yep.
And so, I sort of cheated and watched what they do. And now I do the same thing. And I'm not afraid of damaging the camera or anything like that because I've done it enough now.
Are the swabs pre-moistened?
No. You have to moisten the swabs by putting the edge of the wand and on both sides, and get a decent amount of fluid in there so that it is going to clean the sensor. But you can get these swabs that do it. You can get either APS-C or full size, full frame. And it just takes one swipe, basically to do it.
Who else does it? Who else cleans their own sensors?
I've never done it, so.
No,
Yeah, I did it. Well, I did it a couple of times, but I just send it out now.
Well,
Now I have a mirrorless camera and I find it very easy to do. So if I'm making a trip somewhere, I'm going to travel somewhere and take some pictures and stuff. I'm going to make sure it's clean before I go because I don't want to get home and have, all sorts of distortions on every single picture. So to me, it's well worth the 10 minutes it takes to clean my sensor.
Yeah.
Okay. The slide that I have up right now is, to Dave's point, it kind of goes through the instructions of how to determine if your sensor needs cleaning. And like he said, taking a picture of the sky and things like that. Excuse me, but one of the other things that can help is in different applications, there are tools and presets you can use that make the spots show up a little easier and make it, there's a Capture One, there's a YouTube presentation by a guy named Paul Reefer who shows you how to set up your own preset so that you can find them. This will be sent out. These slides will be sent out when we send out the link to the meeting tomorrow. So you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. The Lightroom one is can't remember the guy's name now. But there's a visualized spots. I'm not a Lightroom guy, so there's a visualized spot slider in there. And this guy tells you how to use it. I think it's Scott Davenport that does that. And on the on-one photo raw, there's actually the same guy, Scott Davenport, has a presentation that actually links you to an article that has a download preset, a preset you can download for free and install in your system that'll help you see your blemishes on your images. They're pretty neat. The only thing you've got to remember is that, to turn them off. And the other thing you got to, if you're using something like On1 or Capture One or Photoshop, where you have layers, you don't want to put your corrections on the same layer that your preset to find the blemishes is on, because when you turn it off, I did it once. I found out the hard way. Any comments or questions on this?
Mark, do you have any idea, or anybody have any idea of the turnaround time or the cost or whatever to take it to, is a Perfect Image in Lancaster, I believe?
yes.
They'll do this for you too, but I have no idea what something like this costs or how soon you get your stuff back or what. Does anybody know?
Well, I used to take my cameras over once a year. They would have a special running. They would clean and calibrate 2 lenses with one body And I think it was
$90.
$90. I think it was about 90,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
it was worth it. And I never really realized till after I had my lenses calibrated to the body how much difference it made. So I figured once a year it was worth it.
And they can turn it around in just a few days.
Yeah, usually I got it within 4 days.
Yeah.
So once a year, it's definitely worth it.
Where was that?
Perfect Image, it's in Lancaster. Because you don't want to buy a $1,500 camera and then not want to spend 60 more to get it taken care of.
It's right next door to the fly fishing shop.
You would know.
It is. Okay, let's
And
move
one other,
on.
I'm
What-
sorry, Mark, one
No, go
other
ahead.
thing. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's my understanding that mirrorless cameras don't need to be calibrated.
Correct.
That's
Okay.
right.
One
A
other
lot of them
thing,
still allow you to, though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there are lenses that don't focus correctly, period. They
one,
light
one
in
other,
the-
one other thing about sending your lenses out. I sent my camera body and my 70-200 back to Canon because I dropped the camera one day. Now, there was nothing wrong with the lens. I had a different lens on when I dropped it, and it wasn't a Canon, and they wouldn't do anything with the body till I sent them my Canon lens, which they politely dropped and broke the front. Now, I have protective filters, clear glass filters. They're not cheap on the front. And they tried to blame me that I didn't pack it right. And I said, I don't think so. I had it wrapped double in bubble wrap, wrapped again in another wrap in a box with the ends sealed. And I said, I'll check with the shipper. The shipper wanted to go in and look at the wrap. They wouldn't let him in. They paid for the repair. So it was their fault. But always protect it with several bubble wraps if you're going to ship it.
Mhm.
And that leads us right into the next topic, which is lenses. Okay. And first question is, how do you store your lenses?
I have a cabinet in the basement that I store my lenses and camera bodies in.
Okay, one of those temperature and humidity controlled ones.
Yeah, and they're not really expensive.
No, they aren't.
Well, I didn't think they were to protect thousands of dollars worth of lenses and bodies.
Yeah, one of the biggest chuckles I get is when I watch YouTube videos and these guys have their camera lenses stacked, on the shelf behind them.
Mhm.
That terrifies me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mine stay in my camera bag with the caps on.
Well, when I bring mine in from outside, when the temperatures start fluctuating, getting
Not
Really?
yet, not yet, Terry. That's the next slide.
oh,
I know you want to talk about it, but it's the next
no,
slide.
that's all right. No, I'm just okay.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Anyway, so how do most people store them? Do they keep them in their camera bags or in a cabinet or?
I keep one in the camera bag on a camera. And then the other ones, I have one of those, it's called a Pelican.
Yes.
Which you could drive a car over it and it wouldn't, you'd be fine. So I keep them in there and in the basement, which believe it or not, our basement is dry.
Okay.
So I keep them in a hard body, a hard case.
Mary Eileen, how do you store yours?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I have
no,
a.
sorry, Terry. I meant Mary Eileen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, it took me a while to find that little mute button. Now I tend to, keep the caps on them and keep them in the camera bags,
Okay.
zipped up in that, and then try to, that in maybe into the closet. But yeah, I have no special place or, cabinet for it or anything like that. I keep them in the camera bags.
Okay. I do the same thing. I keep mine in my camera bags, and I don't keep them in the basement. Even though I have a quote unquote dry basement, I have the humidity can still get up around 60, 65% in the basement. So it's great for my guitars, lousy for glass surfaces. Anybody else on that?
I keep mine in my camera bag, but I was kind of not paying that close of attention when you talked about humidity, because
Yeah.
I buy these bags of desiccant, there's
Yes.
little things that take humidity out of products, and I just toss them in my camera bag just indiscriminately in pockets. And I'm thinking humidity is not good for electronic equipment. Is that correct?
It's not good for that. It's also not good for lenses because it can, that's how mold stuff starts to grow in the lenses.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep my lenses in my bag for behavioral motivational reasons. If I don't have them ready to go, if I have to go find camera lenses and equipment and pack it all up, I may not be encouraged to go shoot. I have to be ready to shoot and pick up my stuff and just put it in the car and go carry with me when I get. I do not take care of my stuff as carefully perhaps as others. And I've wondered about, I think David had mentioned about using one lens when he shoots Sandy. I do a lot of shooting of shorebirds in Florida and on the beaches, whatever. And I'm on my stomach with kind of small lenses, small tripods down there. And yeah, and I have not been good about that. So some of these tools I think will be helpful, because you're right, you cannot get away from getting sand on these things. On the other hand is that, I weigh that against being a real pragmatist as well. I don't want to ruin my equipment. On the other hand is that, I'm dogged about getting shots and whatever. But I appreciate what David said.
There's a fine line for some and others not. I completely understand your point of view. Makes more sense.
I've been known to walk back to the car and get in the car to change lenses.
Wow.
So
I have a question.
yeah.
When you're at the ocean, at the beach, and it's really humid or it's windy, that salty film gets on your lenses. And if I try to clean it off, it just kind of smears it and makes it look greasy. How do you get that off?
Mike,
I'm here.
let's talk about cleaning lenses.
That's when you use, I have here, I don't know if anybody has it on speaker view or not, but I have, yeah, that's actually what I'm holding in my hand is a Zeiss lens cleaning wipe. They're good for your glasses. They're good for filters. They're good for any lens, because Zeiss is like a high zoot lens maker. So they would certainly not make something that would ruin it. So that would be one way to go. Another way to go would be a spray bottle of the lens cleaner and then a microfiber cloth. But one thing you might want to do first is use that blower, or if, like I said, if you have speaker view, I have a can of air here that you shake it, give a squirt, and then you can use it to blow the air out. It'll blow a little bit of, I guess, propellant out first, but use either the blower or a can of air to blow it, and then an actual lens. The next thing you might do to be super safe is brush it off with the end of the lens pen, and then use a wipe made especially for lenses.
Okay.
Just like the one you see in the picture. And you can get the Zeiss lens cleaner also in a spray bottle, like I said.
Okay.
Do you spray it directly onto the lens?
I do. No, I have them all covered with a filter.
Okay.
So I spray it right onto the filter. Well, one thing you might not want to do is spit on your lens.
That's right.
That's a bad thing. But yes, I know it's a big controversy whether you use a filter over your lens or not. But if I'm set up at an arts and crafts show, nobody has ever said, "Oh, that looks like you had a clear filter over it."
Yeah.
Nobody. You might know the difference if you compare one to the other, but I protect with filters, and that way you're cleaning the filter actually, and you're not touching the front of the lens.
Right.
It's
So
cheaper
what
to
if you
replace a
don't-
$60 filter than a $600 lens.
What if you don't have the, you don't have the filter on and that grease gets on the lens front? Can
Then you
use
can
the
still go
spray?
with the lens. You can still use the lens wipe on the actual lens.
Okay, or the
That-
spray?
Yes, that's what they're made for actually, is
Okay.
to clean lenses.
And
Okay.
the other thing, I guess the other option, Mike, is what I've got showing here, which is the lens pen,
Correct.
where you can,
Okay.
you use the brush part to clean, to brush off the loose particles. And then the other end has got carbon on it or something, if I remember right.
Yeah, let me see where I put mine.
And then you can use that to clean with. The only caveat I make with these lens pens is that some people will use the brush end to brush anything. And I use it just to brush the lens element.
Yeah.
Because if you use it anyplace else, it could pick up oil or grit and affect your
Yeah.
lens.
And,
this-
and
The same is true for the other end,
Yes.
for the end that has the chemical in. That also can get like a little piece of grit or a piece of sand or something like that. That's why on the actual lens itself, I prefer the wipe because they're sealed. You open them and use them right away.
Do you think there's any, do you think the use of those wipes, I'm talking the Zeiss wipes that you have on the screen right now, do you think that results in any degradation of the lens, you know?
no,
Well, I've been using them on my glasses for years and I can see like a hawk.
Okay.
You know, Chris, there are people out there who said they would never use these lens wipes on camera lenses.
Right.
And there are other people like Mike who say, no problem, I use them all the time.
so do I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and I don't use them quite as much and because I find the lens pen can pretty much do everything I want. But I also know that I use them on my eyeglasses, and I took in a four-year-old set of glasses to my eye doctor one day, and they were looking at them, and they said, you know, basically they asked me, "Do you use these at all?"
Yeah.
Because all the coatings were still just fine on it. There was
Right.
no sign of coating degradation.
And Mike, are you saying, Mike, that spitting on your lenses is socially unacceptable?
Socially and mechanically.
Well, actually,
Go ahead.
actually, I read articles about this. You should never even blow dust off of your lens. Because when you do, there's tiny droplets of saliva. And of course, there's acid in there.
Yeah,
And that will eat the coating off.
Yeah.
that's why the blower.
Yes,
Yep.
sir. And on going back to the brush, once you get one of those brushes, don't ever touch it with your hand or anything. Because the second you touch that brush, it sucks oil right into the brush, throw it away. It's done.
The other thing that, Mike, that I use the lens wipes for is to wipe down the body, the camera body, if it's sticky.
That's a good idea.
And I use it to wipe down the viewfinder on the big viewfinder on the back of the camera.
Yes.
Mark, let me read the instructions on the back of the lens wipe.
Sure.
It says safely and quickly clean eyeglasses and sunglasses, plus other optics, including lenses on cameras, binoculars, microscopes, webcams, and many others. The directions say gently brush away dust and dirt with the folded wipe, unfold the wipe, and gently clean the surface with circular movements until clean and dry. And here's the important thing, single use only.
Yes.
So once you use it, throw it away. That way you won't get any grit on your lens.
And they're not that expensive. You can get them at Walmart.
Yeah.
No, I have this monstrous box full
Yep.
of them here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Christmas is coming, so you know what to
There
ask
you
for.
go.
Maybe you could share those with the rest of us, Mike.
No, I don't think so. I'll send everybody one.
I'm just saying, Mike, I'm just saying.
Understood.
I was wondering, back to microfiber towels for a second. I was wondering if you had any opinion on, there's different types of microfiber towels. There's waffle weave, and there's all sorts of densities of the GSM, right? Some are thicker. The higher the GSM, the thicker the towel. And I was wondering if you had any opinion on, what type of microfiber towel, because I know like Costco, they sell these in the auto detailing section. They have a box of 36. They're pretty thick microfiber towels. So I think if you just strictly limit your use to the camera, you're good, because you're not cleaning a countertop 1 minute and then washing it and then taking it out and then the next week using it to clean your lens. I mean, I think my feeling is as long as you just keep it dedicated to the camera, that batch of microfiber towels would be okay. But I was wondering if, the thinner towel, or what people thought about that.
Do you mean for the camera body?
No, I mean for the lens, like drying it, say for instance, it's in the rain, or it gets wet.
I've never given that a lot of thought, Chris.
Mm-mm.
If you look at the picture here, I have this yellow one that's this microfiber that's used for polishing cars, basically.
Mhm.
And I use that one on my, I'm like Mike. I have I keep a protective filter on the front of my lenses, and I know that would upset Dennis and Joe, but but I do that, and if they get a little damp or something, I can just touch them with this, and it just sucks up the water.
Right.
You
Plus
do
there's-
have to be careful with microfiber towels,
Yeah.
as your resident expert here on microfiber towels. Believe it or not, some of them have an edge to them, and the edge is on some, it's not microfiber, it's very abrasive. So what you think you have is a soft microfiber towel, but the edging of it is really rough and not made of the same material. And you can scratch a car body with it just as well as a lens. I'd be real cautious using a microfiber towel directly on a lens.
I have I think it's a Zeiss microfiber cloth.
Yes.
That's designed for
Yeah.
using on lenses.
That
That's
comes
yeah.
with the spray bottle.
Well, actually, this is a pretty big one. This is a pretty good size one. That's probably 4 times the size of what
Yes.
typically comes with the bottles.
Okay.
And I find that if I dedicate that one for the lenses, for the glass parts, I seem to be okay. Because you're right. Some of these, like this one you see here, the yellow one has an edge on it. And I'm pretty careful to not use that edge even on
Yeah.
just the body.
Yeah, people
You
have
ever-
gotten scratched cars with those towels too.
Yeah.
It's good to know that Zeiss makes one too. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
That
and
sounds like,
ProMaster,
yeah, it's worth looking into, sure.
yeah, B&H has them.
I
Mark,
don't really have to worry about that microfiber thing because I have 6,000 lens wipes that I'm not sharing with anyone. So I'm good to go.
Mark,
Yeah, Terry.
do you ever wash that?
The
Yes.
yellow cloth, I do,
Well-
yes.
How about the white one?
The white one, no, but I don't use it very frequently.
Well, what you can wash it with, and this is the only thing recommended, is Dawn dish soap.
Really?
Yes, and what I do, I have one just like yours. And when I wash it, I put plastic gloves on. So now I'm not going to transfer any oil from my hands into the cloth. I know it
Okay.
sounds like a pain, but those cloths are not cheap. But
No, they aren't.
I've never scratched what do you call it? I've never scratched the filter. I've never left a film or anything. But then I rinse it about 10 times in hot water.
Yep, yep. I have found that, the smaller ones that you tend to get when you buy a camera lens or you,
Yeah.
you pretty much buy anything camera lens now, they put these microfiber cloths in. As soon as I think they're dirty, I throw them away.
Yeah.
So, Mike, have you ever cleaned your lenses using distilled water and Q-tips?
No, I did not.
Okay, because that's another technique that a lot of people say is a great way to clean your lenses.
Mhm.
I've never done it, but
No, me neither.
Oh.
That might be a good way to attack the viewfinder.
Yeah.
yeah, and then I've seen it done with the viewfinders too. Yep. Anything else here regarding lenses? We're getting closer to your stuff, Terry, on the
Okay.
the wet, cold weather.
I actually had a
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
What about older lenses getting the like the gray off the grips, like the little white or gray buildup that tends to get on them? I have some old Minolta lenses, probably 30, 40 years old. Any thoughts on getting that off? It doesn't seem to come off with anything like a toothpick or
I have no idea.
wipes or anything like that.
Huh. I was
You
going to
mean-
suggest a lens wipe, but if you tried wipes already,
Are you talking about on the lens itself? Or
Yeah,
on the-
so I think I
On
have
the
one.
body, on the body.
Yeah,
not
on the
not
on the
elements.
body. Sorry, yeah.
So you might be able to use a toothbrush.
Toothbrush.
A toothbrush, not not too stiff a one. And if you're trying to get around the numbers and such, I would probably use the lens spray that Mike was talking about with the toothbrush. That might clean pretty good, but I wouldn't saturate it.
Floors.
I'm sorry? Yes. That's what I would do.
All right, I'll give that a shot.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else?
Excuse me.
Let's move on. Accessories. How do you guys handle your camera batteries? We're still there, Terry. We're gonna get to your subject.
That's all right.
We're gonna get to your subject.
You got a subject right here that everybody, so many people say no on third-party batteries. Well, I've been shooting third-party batteries with 3 different Canon cameras, even my newest one. I've never had a problem, never. But I keep them charged all the time. Make sure they're charged. And
Fully
then I-
charged.
I recently had a third-party battery expand, overheat on the charger and expand to the point that you couldn't even get it in the camera.
yeah, that's a big concern with third-party camera batteries, that they overheat if you're using them in a charger not made just for them, or even if they swell in the camera.
It
Then you
actually
can't get
did,
them out.
it did swell in the camera and
Yeah.
we needed to get it out.
Yeah, I've
Yep,
heard those
so
stories. Pat,
that
what
is a
brand?
concern.
What brand was that? Do you remember?
I shoot with a Sony camera, but B&H sold me this battery.
There's a
As a-
Wasabi.
I don't know. I'd have to check on that.
Okay, because I've used Watson's and I've not had a problem with it. But
With your Sony camera?
with the Sony or the Canon that I had before. But they do make some cheaper third-party batteries too. Mike, I take it you're strictly an OEM guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the problem I've had with third-party batteries, Mark, is not so much blowing up, sweating or whatever. A normal Nikon battery, you can shoot all day, most of the day on one battery. With the third-party batteries I bought in the past, you'd get an hour or 2 out of them and you'd have to swap batteries. If you're out in a shoot, they just never held the charge. And so I just changed over and use all OEM now. So,
Yeah, and when you really come right down to it, you've got a multi-$1,000 camera and you're sweating over $40 on a battery. And you know, that's really, you know, when you look at the bigger picture, it's I tend to use the OEM batteries, but I do have a third party one that's kind of my backup battery. And in shooting mirrorless, I don't care how long you're out, you're gonna change batteries or be awful close to it by the time you finish.
Oh,
You,
yeah, for
yes,
sure.
that's true. You go through them like crazy.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of the way I look at it, and you know, everybody's got their own, you know, their own poison, so to speak. But I put memory cards and batteries in the same category, and I guess it gets back to what Mark just said. You spend thousands of dollars for an investment. I don't know if warranty would even be covered if you put something in there that didn't belong from the manufacturer, but you know, original equipment is cheap. You know, you've got a memory card. Again, it's why risk that it's going to fail? And I guess I just, you know, use the same approach with the batteries. I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong about it, but for the thousands of dollars you have invested in lenses and cameras, it's, to me, it's sort of like protecting your investment to use the original equipment on both batteries and cards.
Well, not only that, that's the thing that makes all the rest work.
Details.
And if you're gonna cheap out on something, it should not be the engine that's gonna make it all happen.
Yeah, there you go. Sure.
How do you guys store the batteries? You keep them on do you keep them on a charger all the time?
No,
No.
no.
Good.
In fact,
good.
you should
good,
not
good.
leave them on longer than necessary to charge them.
Yep.
As soon as they're done, you get them off. I store them. I have little, you probably can't see it. Mine have little clips on that I can put on. And one end it says I put on there recharge, and the other end says the name of the camera. So what I did on the batteries to make it easy was on the one end, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little white piece of tape. So when I use the battery and I need to recharge it, I just slip that white end to the point where it says recharge. I don't have to think about which battery needs to be charged.
And Mike, what do you store yours in?
I store them in, I have them in this little think tank folder.
Yep.
And then you pull it open and there it is.
How do you tell if they're charged or not?
The Fuji batteries have an orange dot on them.
Ah, okay.
So if the orange dot's to the left, they're fully charged. If it's to the right, they need charged.
Okay. I use the same think tank battery storage things, and mine doesn't have, you know, the Sonys don't have that fancy stuff. So what I do is the charged ones are stored with the contacts down, and the discharged ones are stored with the contacts up.
There you
So I
go.
can tell the difference. Anybody else got anything? Any other battery stories? It's you know, like Terry says, don't plug in and leave them powered on all the time.
Now, one thing
Chargers
I-
have regulators in them, but if they fail, you're going to have a fire.
Oh, absolutely.
True.
And you should really, I just read an article the other week. You should really not charge any batteries overnight while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
It should be.
If you err on the side of caution. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Well, the other thing you could do is you could build and it's very simple to build, a fireproof box that you put your charger in, close it up. I wonder about that because all the batteries, when you're heating or when they're charging, they do create some heat.
Oh yeah.
So now if you keep those batteries charging in that fireproof box, that means you can't have any ventilation coming out of there. You can't have any holes in it. It wouldn't be fireproof anymore.
Well, there's some fancy ways to make them fireproof invented.
We'll have to talk. I mean, it's a thought, you know, I mean, I try to charge mine during the day when I'm around.
So you wouldn't charge your Tesla overnight, right?
Well, that, I'm not worried about that. I mean, that charge that puppy anytime. You laugh, but I'll tell you what, I've seen the batteries that they actually use in the car and the packs. They're not very big.
No, they aren't.
But it takes two people to work on that Tesla car. Always. One person to pull the other person away if something goes bad.
Just like high voltage equipment in the chemical plant. Same thing. Yep. All right. Just change subjects. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just went around and took all my batteries off the charger. But it kind of like the battery kind of falls into with my routine with the SD card. Like when I get home, I take the old battery out, put a new battery in, charge it up, and when I take my SD card out of my camera and put it in the computer, I don't let that camera out of my hand until I have a new SD card in the camera, because nothing's worse than getting out someplace and not having an SD card in the camera. So before I put that camera down, even though it's just a momentary thing, I'll make sure I have a new SD card or some SD card that will get, just as a placeholder, that will work.
Okay, this leads right into the next subject. How do you manage memory cards? That's a good one, Chris. Is anybody, when they buy their cards, who dates them?
I have in the past.
Okay.
Of course. That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I'm good for something.
Wow. Why didn't I think of that? I never do that.
Because I have a habit, Chris, similar to you. I get home, my camera's got dual memory cards. I take the card out, I download everything onto my computer, I run my backup software, then I put the card back into the computer, into my phone, camera, media say, and then I wipe everything. Then I reformat it. The one time I forgot to do that. Excuse me. Oh, the one time I forgot to do that, I went out to take some pictures, and I had taken the primary card out, and the camera said, "Hey, there's nothing in the primary slot." It didn't take pictures.
I drove all the way to Ricketts Glen once, and I had no SD card. I couldn't believe it. So that's why I don't put the camera down. And I have it right now. I have an SD card in the computer and I have an SD card in the camera. So when I go to take what's on the camera off, I'll take the SD card that's in the computer, put it in the camera, and exchange it, because there cannot be a time when the camera does not have an SD card, because I can't let that happen again.
I always keep an extra brand new SD card in my camera bag.
I do that as well now.
Always.
How do you store them? Do you keep them in the original plastic containers?
Yep.
Okay. Like, how do you store yours?
I have like a little plastic box that has little sections to put them in.
Okay.
And one other thing, if you have one that's especially valuable, or there's something on there you want to use, that cards are super cheap and getting cheaper. If you want to use the card just like for a backup of the backup, don't forget they have that little knob on the side that you can lock them with.
Yeah. Good point.
So then you won't screw up and go over something you don't want to go over. So don't forget that. You can actually lock it so that it's not usable until you're ready to unlock it. Then you just flip that little switch back up. But I don't keep mine locked, but I do keep them in a little plastic container with a little section that you put each one in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like a little book, sort of.
Mike,
And I
I
recently-
can attest to that. there was a time when the only way I could salvage that photo was from the card.
Yeah.
My backup drives failed. I neglected to do this, that, everybody's got an excuse. And the only place where that photo was an SD card that I had to dig out. And fortunately, it saved the day. So now I agree with you completely. I use mine as a backup storage for about a year before I'll reformat that card.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good insurance. It's really good insurance.
I mean, there's some, you see these videos on YouTube of some professional photographers. They take the card, they back it up to an external drive, portable drive, and then they store them both in two different locations forever.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's good, but I'm not, I'm not
I
that
think they have
fastidious.
lots of money to burn.
They do. I mean, some of these guys, I'm sure they make thousands of dollars on their commercial shoots.
Well, that's
So I
the
don't
thing.
think
If it's your livelihood, you
exactly
photograph over a SD card, that'd be the worst.
Yeah. One of the things that I've found is that I store my cards in. It's a little case. You probably can't see it. I think I showed this earlier. It's about the size of a credit card. It's made by Small Rig, and it's got a plastic slide on the inside that can store 3 SD cards in it. And the thing I like with it is it's thin. It's about as thick as 2 or 3 credit cards together. So you can slide it right in your pocket and not have a big bulky thing sitting there. So I just started using these, and I like them. I like them. Okay. Anything else to cover as far as memory cards go? Who's had one fail on them while they're in a shoot or trying to offload pictures?
Me.
Me too.
Did you ever use the recovery software?
Yes.
Did it work?
It did actually. It's called Image Recall.
Okay.
And it got probably 80% pulled off the card. Now, some of them, believe it or not, only like half the picture reappeared. And some of them looked like back in the old days when your TV antenna wasn't working. But it got a lot of them. It did. It's called Image Recall. Now, there's millions of them now, but that was the big one then.
Mary Eileen, you said you lost one once?
Yeah, like a stupid fool. I opened it. I opened the card. I tried everything. Couldn't do anything with it. And then realized the next day the card was warranted for life. Too late now.
Wow.
You learn.
Yep. Anybody else have any experience like that? All right.
Is there any maintenance software or anything other than just, using the camera's format that you should do as a best practice for maintaining cards?
The best practice is probably, in my opinion, the best practice is probably using the formatting function there. But there is some software on that you can load onto a PC or a Mac that can actually test the integrity of the drive. I don't remember exactly. I don't have it off the top of my head exactly which ones, but they'll inspect it and look. It's kind of like the hard drives with you get software that can look for bad sectors and things like that. They've got the same type of software that you can look with solid state drives with. And I can't remember the name of a single one of them. I haven't used them in a couple of months. So. Anything else? Okay, I think we've already covered this one. Next one to some degree, which is the use and how do you use and clean lens filters? I think everyone would say they pretty much clean them like they would a camera lens.
Yep.
And some people use them to protective filters, other people don't. Who uses them as protective filters? Besides Terry, Mike, and myself. Oh, Dave does. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I do also.
Oh, you do? Okay, Patricia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah.
When I sent that camera back to Canon,
yeah,
that was the part that was broke. it saved the lens and optic.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So I'm convinced they're worth every penny.
I think,
Okay.
you know, it's up for debate in so many ways. For me, again, it's just a personal thing. If you have a very expensive lens, you have to have, in my view, a very expensive filter. So unless the filter, the way I see it, is equivalent to the lens, and if it's a Zeiss lens, then, you know, I'm saying Zeiss filter, it'll cost you $100 or $200. That's pretty much what you got to do. If not, you're taking a wonderful lens that you paid buku bucks for, and you're slapping on a $20 filter.
Right.
I'm telling you, I mean, who believes that you now don't have a $20 lens?
Yeah, you got this multi-coated filter on, and then you put an uncoated, multi-coated lens, you put an uncoated filter on, then yeah, you're gonna get flare.
Well, the only one I use is B&W.
Same here.
They're expensive, but I think they're well worth it.
Okay. What do you guys do as far as maintaining batteries for flashes, remotes, that kind of stuff? Who just takes them and throws them in their camera bag?
I don't want to discuss this one.
Why not? What have
Because
you done, Mike?
I have like 1 million of the AA batteries in that box I was saying I keep my lenses in, and I don't even know what half of them are for anymore.
I have a question about those protective filters, because I don't use them, but I was thinking, would it be advisable to like do what people do for ND filters and by the diameter of your largest lens, and then you step up rings for all the other?
Not really, because the purpose behind that filter is to put it on the lens and have it stay there.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I know there are some people that will use them only at special occasions, like if they're going to the beach where it's going to be windy and the sand is blowing and that kind of thing. And there's a couple of filters, camera lenses. I think the Tamron 17 to 28 is classified as weather resistant only if it has a filter, only if it has a protective filter on the front.
Yep. You're right.
Because
a lot of people use their not a lot, but there are people who use their sunshade for protection rather than a filter.
It's not the same thing.
No, it isn't, but it's if you drop it or something like that. It's definitely not protection for anything in the wind, but that's what I've talked to people who have done that. Yeah, I use the sunshade in case I bump against something or hit something.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. How do you guys take care of your tripods?
I put it in the bag.
That's it, put it in the bag.
So you don't take it in the shower with you like Joe does?
No, I did tighten up some of the use the Allen wrench and tighten a couple of the locks up. So yes, I did maintain my tripod.
Okay.
That's a piece of information, Mark, I wish you had not shared with us.
Hard to unsee, isn't it?
It's hard to unsee it. It's hard not to say anything to Joe next time we see him.
Go right ahead. But it's one of these things, when you use them at the beach, use them in the salt water or even in fresh water, because they can pick up very fine silt and that type of stuff. Different, there's the people like me, I'll take it and I'll wipe it down before I close it up, usually. Other than that, I don't do, and I tighten the nuts on it or bolts on it every now and then. That's about the extent that I do. But I know other people that, if they got the screw locks, they completely undo the locks, take the legs out, and super clean it like it's going to be brand, like brand new when they finish with it. And I just wonder if anybody does that other than Joe.
No, but I can understand it, because when things get sandy and you're in the water and everything else, it cannot really wreak havoc on those legs.
Yeah, and that's true. And I think I haven't used mine. I don't go to the beach that much. But I think if I did and I was sitting there immersing it in the water, I would probably be taking apart the lower sections.
Mhm.
And
I have a mid-grade tripod, and it doesn't really have that good of seals in the legs, and you'll get grittiness and resistance when you try and pull it out and put it back. And some of the better ones, and it goes to equipment early on, some of the better ones have rubber seals in them, so when you get in sand or grit, or you're taking stream shots and so on, it won't allow that dirt to get in underneath them seals. So
okay.
but, you wipe them down all the time and tighten up the bolts.
Okay. All right. What about your camera bag? How many people here go to all the trouble of cleaning their lenses and cleaning their camera and sticking it into a camera bag that they haven't vacuumed out? Other than me.
Vacuumed out?
If you
Never vacuumed the
again,
camera bag.
if you go to the beach, you go
Right,
someplace where it's sandy or windy, that type of thing. The sand's going to end up in your camera bag.
I don't have that problem. I never found the perfect camera bag. I'm always looking for something different.
Well, see, that's the other way. As soon as your camera bag gets a little dirty, throw it away and get another one. based on. Go ahead. Anybody else?
Sometimes,
Doesn't
We
everybody
were
do
on the
that?
Hershey. Hershey
Hold on.
garden. I'm sorry.
Hold on, Vicky. What are you saying?
sometimes you should empty them out and the pockets and everything, because you'd be amazed how many times you find money in there that you put and you forgot.
I didn't think of that. You're right. Okay. So does anybody do any routine cleaning of their camera bags, inside or out? They're just the things that get beat up.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Okay.
I like yeah, I like those little desiccant packs in there to absorb any moisture, because you can buy them, dozens of them off of Amazon, larger size ones too, not like not the ones that you get in a pill bottle or bottle of supplements, but a decent sized one. And you throw a half dozen of them in different parts of your camera bag, or even inside the lens case when it's inside your camera bag. It takes care of anything growing in there.
Yeah, that's a great point, Chris.
Yeah. Chris,
Yeah.
I'll trade you a lens cleaning wipe for one of those dessicant bags.
All right.
Oh, wait, I don't think that's a very good deal.
That's a good idea to put those in there.
Yeah.
That's a good trade. Yeah.
I think you should be bargaining for 3 wipes for one of those.
We'll see.
Hey, Mike, I've actually, I think it was on Amazon. No, was it B&H? They actually make a canister like he's talking about that's metal, that's got desiccant in it that you can regenerate.
Oh.
And
okay.
it's designed to go into camera bags.
So
So
that is a great idea.
Yeah, and they're sized for for a certain amount of volume.
Yeah.
I haven't bought any. I've looked at them, but it's like I really want to do that. How lazy or how fastidious do I want to be?
Yeah.
They make some that you can recharge by putting them in a really, really low heat oven if you're adventurous, and that'll regenerate them.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, here's one thing you could do. It's a little bit of work, but it works. You're gonna laugh when I tell you. You take handy wipes and you cut them into strips. And what I did was I made little pouches. Then I took rice and I kept working it in a sieve until I got no more powder. I put them in, put the rice in there and then sealed it up. When the rice expands too much, just throw the whole thing away. Because rice will absorb moisture.
Yep,
Yeah, they will.
cool. Anything
Yeah,
else?
that's how
on-
you save a cell phone that got wet, right?
Yeah,
Throw
right.
it in a pile of rice.
Yeah,
That's like that. That's
right.
like that insurance ad where the phone jumps in, rice, do your stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I put I put the link to the desiccant thing in the chat. For anyone.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, moving on. Now you got environmental challenges. Okay, Terry.
Good God, what happened to those cameras?
Okay. I took this picture, the picture of the frozen camera I took off a Petapixel. True story. In 1979, I was up in Lake Placid for the pre-Olympic trials, and I was photographing the 5K, women's 5K sprint cross country race. And one of the guys I worked with, his son was on the ski team. So I went into the cabin. It was about, it was 40 below zero that morning. And I went into the warm-up room without thinking. And this happened to my camera instantly.
Yep.
Huh.
The camera was probably at about 20 below zero. I went into a nice warm room with lots of moisture, and the moisture went freeze right on the camera.
Yeesh.
Huh.
Well,
Real story, really happened to me. What I do, and maybe Terry, I may be taking the
No, go ahead.
if I take the stuff out, if I go photographing in cold weather, and to me, cold weather is anything below zero. Okay, or actually anything around zero. If I go out in cold weather, when I put the camera in the trunk of my car when I go home, and then then it goes into a plastic bag and stays in the garage overnight. Then it goes in the house and stays in the plastic bag till it warms up to room temperature.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can get condensation on it.
What I do, I do a little bit more than that. I have those desiccant containers
Yep.
that you talked about.
Yep.
Or I use the rice bags sometimes if I forget the desiccant. And I put one of those in and I put it in a big Ziploc bag, squeeze all of the air out, zip it shut. I take it in the house and leave it overnight. I don't touch it till next morning. When the temperature of the camera is the same temperature as the room, then I can take it out of the bag.
Okay.
But the other thing you could have done with that is use hand warmers.
Mm-hmm.
And before you went in there, put your camera in a Ziploc bag and put a couple of those hand warmers in there, and that would have kept everything at a nice even temperature.
Good point.
And
But
Mark,
then-
can I do a slight deviation over this? Question I have is, what do people do when you need to keep your camera in a warm car, hot car, in the summer, obviously, whatever, you just can't take it out. How do people keep it cool without it having a lot of condensation?
You could probably put it in a Ziploc bag. You could do the same thing because you want to absorb the moisture around the camera so it doesn't infiltrate into the lens.
And what about the heat, Terry?
Well, I've never had a problem with the heat, and I keep mine in the car almost all the time
Okay.
in the summertime. But I keep it.
If I'm transporting mine where it's really hot and humid, I'll put it in the cooler.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Sure.
From room temperature, from inside room temperature, I put it in, then I take it out, put it in the vehicle.
And do you put a cool pack in it?
No, nothing.
No.
Because it's going to take hours for it to heat up.
Yep.
And with that, it's the rate of change. The slower you can keep the rate of change, the better off you are. So that's what I do.
Yeah, both of those are practical. Thank you. Because I do a lot of shooting in Florida. Sometimes I have to leave the car there for a few hours.
Yeah. I mean, there used to be at one time, my on some of the older laptops, some of the early laptops, if you got them above 100 degrees, 110, somewhere around there, the monitors on the laptops would start to act funny.
Yeah.
And
Well, you see that
living
with
in-
you see that with your iPhones. If you leave them in,
Yeah.
they'll close down after a certain point.
Yep. And living in Arizona, I had to worry about that. So, but the reason I put these things up is, if you're going to be in a situation where you've got environmental challenges, sand, mud, ice, rain, snow, water, whatever, what do you do to protect your camera while you're using it? It's the question.
Well, I would use one of those plastic covers that goes
Okay.
over the lens and then back over the body of the camera. In fact, I used one on Saturday when we went to the East Broad Top.
Okay.
It was raining. We were all outside.
Now, Chris, you use Olympus equipment, right?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
I thought you did.
No.
Sorry. Because I know Olympus equipment, one of their claims to fame is they're basically weather tight. And
Okay.
I've actually seen people take their expensive Olympus camera and lens, stick it in the sink and put running water over it, and then wipe it off and use it.
Fuji claims to be water resistant, as weather sealed, they call it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, when you're in a challenging environment, what do you do to protect the camera, if anything?
You know what? I was thinking about the butterfly house at Hershey.
Good example.
Yeah.
And when you go there in the winter, it's like the opposite of what this slide is showing. So you
Yeah.
get there as early as you can. When I'm going there, I try to keep, well, first of all, I keep the camera on this car seat with the heat on it. And then I stick it under my coat. And when I get in there, hopefully I won't have to wait more than 10 minutes for it to calm down again. But really, I wait there because otherwise it's the stuff's all fogged up.
So you go into the butterfly house and sit and wait.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
One of the things I've done along those same lines is before I go in, I'll put the lens hood on and stuff a microfiber cloth into the lens hood
Mm-hmm.
and use it to absorb the condensation.
But boy, did they sweat in the butterfly house. It's so humid in there
Oh,
Yeah, it is.
that I sweat horrible.
I only last about 10 minutes and I got to get out. Terry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I had the same problem when I went up there. I would probably try putting a plastic bag, put it in a plastic bag before you leave the car.
Okay.
And then when you go into the butterfly house, keep the plastic bag on for a little bit to let everything get to the same temperature. Because that seems to be what draws the moisture, that temperature variance.
Yep,
so,
absolutely. Does anybody use any of the more heavy duty covers on their cameras and lenses to protect them from weather?
You mean like the 3 I own, but I never used?
Yeah, just like those.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very good.
Just got to use them.
You're right.
They're good at filling your shelf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those plastic shower caps you buy at the dollar store work great. Just a plastic cap or just a plastic bag like with elastic around. It's a shower cap.
Yep.
Yeah, and they work great. Throw them over your camera. It works great.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea.
I thought the only thing that goes into the shower was the tripod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, no.
Don't forget now, this is recorded.
That's
it's
why I'm
gonna-
not saying
and it's
anything
going on
else.
YouTube, so keep it
Yeah.
civil.
I remember it was Mark who brought it up at first, not us.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, based on that, I'm gonna change slides. Okay. Who prints their images? And how do you maintain your printers?
Huh.
Mary Eileen, how do you maintain your printer?
I do the nozzle checks to clean the print heads. When
Okay,
I first started getting into digital photography, I took classes at Hack, and one day there was a problem with I was in their open lab where you can go in and use the printer. There was a problem with the printer, and Garrick showed me how to do nozzle checks, print heads, things like that. So I just, when I stopped taking classes and I got my own printer, I figured out how to do that on that printer. I guess one day I ran into a problem and I started to check it and I thought, you need to do it to this one too. And so, yeah, I will do that myself and run the
okay. Do you use pigment-based inks or dye-based inks in your printer? You know?
No.
Okay. Mike, you use a dye-based printer, right?
Give me a minute to go look at my ink.
It's
You use a Pro 100, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's dye-based.
Yeah.
Who uses anybody here use a pigment-based printer? Yes, done. Okay. The reason I'm asking is that stuff that I've seen, I use a dye-based. I use the same printer that Mike does. But one of the things that I've read and seen is that people who use pigment-based printers, if you don't use them every week, the chances of them clogging up is very high. And there's actually, I can't remember who it was. There was somebody, he prints a 4x5 print of something. He doesn't care what, every week, just to keep the heads clean and unclogged, and throws it away. Norbert, you gonna say something?
No, I
Okay.
agree with what you're talking there about dye-based versus pigment. Yeah.
Okay. Now I know you're a printer too, right?
Who, me?
Norbert? How's that?
You print, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So how do you store your print media? You store it flat or on its edge? You keep it in the original packaging? You put new packaging?
Laying flat in original packaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody not use original packaging?
I don't.
I use Hanomule paper, a lot of Hanomule paper.
Okay.
And they have packaging that's really pretty amazing, And they have special gloves. You handle it with special gloves.
Oh, okay.
And you never touch the surface of the print because it'll leave oil on it and won't print properly. But yeah, no, I lay mine flat, right into the box again.
Okay. Terry, you were going to say that you don't store it in the packaging it comes in?
The paper I do, but the ink, I actually refill my own cartridges.
Okay.
I've had good luck with it. I've never had a problem. The only color that I was told, there's a guy by the name of Rodriguez.
Yes.
I think he's probably the authority on printers. He has 20 of them.
Yeah. I think he buys every one when they come out, and yeah, you're right.
And he's got boxes and boxes of paper, and oh my God. But like we're using the Pro 100. He said, if you're going to refill the cartridges, do not use the original yellow cartridge to refill unless you clean it with special cleaner. For as cheap as they are, I just bought an empty one.
Yeah.
And filled it. But I only buy 2 ounces of ink at a time. That's all.
Okay. Okay. What else was there along these lines? I thought there was something else I had a question.
Oh,
Anybody?
one thing, Mark, that I found out about these printers, when you do an inkjet cleaning, you are actually losing time on that printer.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's a little sponge down in a well. Now, a Russian guy figured out how to take the thing apart, get that sponge out, replace it. But that didn't end the problem. You have to reprogram the printer to get it to work. Once that sensor senses that there's some, and there's nothing wrong with the printer. It's built-in obsolescence.
Yep. Yeah. That's the way they do it. Any other comments on printers? Okay. Any other comments on anything else? Was there anything that we missed that you want to talk about?
How about the different kinds of straps that you can use on your camera?
Straps
to carry your camera.
Okay.
I see a lot of people with straps that you normally get with the camera.
Yep.
And then they put the camera on a tripod and that strap gets tangled up. I myself almost dropped the camera because of that. I don't use those straps. I have a strap that goes across my chest with one connection point at the bottom.
Okay.
And then I have a miniature, I call it a miniature clamp that is on the ball head. They made a miniature so you could put that on the end of your strap.
Okay.
Quick release.
Okay. Mike, what do you do? Do you use the standard straps?
I have the Peak Design stuff.
Yes.
So I have straps from them, and then I also have like a little, it's just like a little holster around your hand. Because my neck gets sore sometimes walking around with the camera hanging there all the time. So it kind of is like a little tiny camera strap that goes around your hand and your wrist. I'm starting to use that more and more. But the Peak Design stuff is really the most comfortable strap that I found.
Yeah, I use the Peak Design strap. I also use the Peak Design wrist strap, the little thin one.
Yeah, yeah.
With the mirrorless cameras, it's that's the thing that I always keep on the camera, and then I use the shoulder strap for when I'm going to be out longer.
Right.
Anybody else have any more comments or anything else they want to bring
I've
up?
had a lot of success with the Black Rapid strap.
Yes, yeah,
especially with heavy gear. I had my large Nikon and the 200 to 500 lens. I mean, we're talking pounds. And the Black Rapid was very, very comfortable. Everything, once you get it adjusted, lies fine. The only thing I would caution anybody about if they get this Black Rapid strap, which is really, really good, but it screws in on the bottom of your tripod screw, and that can work loose. So and then all fails. So you have to be sure with the Black Rapid that the screw is going into the camera tripod bolt at the bottom of your camera, and that you constantly check it, because it will work loose. There's a little rubber gasket that's supposed to keep it tight, never does. So that's the only caveat I have with the Black Rapid. Otherwise, again, it's super, super convenient.
There's another company that makes one like the Black Rapid. Well, what they added to it was they added a safety line that connects to where you would typically put the tripod on the side of your camera. So if it does come unscrewed, the camera still stays attached.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And Black Rapid does make what's called a tether. So that tells you that they come loose, right?
Yeah.
So you buy the tether, and then you got more stuff to get tangled in, work around. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Black Rapid does make a tether so that when that little screw comes loose, which it always does, if you're not careful, I nearly lost the camera and lens that way. you do have the backup of a tether. Tether's like about $15. It's just another strap that, kind of protects you, and it's probably well worth it, especially if you're going to, not check that connection.
It's the strap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
More insurance, yeah.
Okay. All right, if nobody has anything else to talk about, this slide here has some useful links on. The first one is a video on how to clean your viewfinder on your camera, and then there's a couple on just general cleaning. One is from F-Stoppers, and the other one is a PDF that will get sent out tomorrow along with this PDF from Perfect Image. Perfect Image has a write-up on how to take care of your camera gear, and we've gotten permission from them to distribute it to our club members.
Oh, good.
So we'll get that. And the last one is a YouTube video. I think it's a Scott Davenport again, on how to clean your tripod, right down to showering with it.
Yeah.
He doesn't say shower with it, he says put it in the shower. But anyway,
Okay.
Terry, don't die on me here.
I was just thinking something, but I gotta not say it.
That's right. Behave.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, is there anything else?
Well,
Hey,
Okay.
thanks, Mark. Thanks for
Thank you,
doing this
Mark.
tonight.
thanks a lot, you
Oh,
guys.
my
Yeah, thanks,
pleasure.
Mark.
Thank
You did a
you.
good job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, great job.
You
Mark.
guys did a good
Mark.
job. I like the participation was
Mark.
very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Good
Night.
night.
All right,
Good night.
everyone.
Hey,
Mark.
Yeah.
You still recording?
what's that?
Hold
Are you
on a
still-
second. Hold on a second. Yes, I am.
There's